Okay, our first presentation tonight is the budget presentation. I'm going to let Mrs. Levine introduce our speaker.
Thank you. We'd like to welcome up Dr. Grace Chan to give the budget presentation for Putnam Valley Central School District 26-27 school year budget.
A lot of stuff here.
Good evening, Board of Ed, parents, staff, community members. Tonight, we're going to present the superintendent's proposed budget. But first, I would like to thank my staff, Matthew, my treasurer, Karen, Debbie, and my newest hire, Cynthia. I also want to thank for the collaboration of the administrators and the staff while we prepared this. Also want to thank Mike Lee and Alex Goffman, who helped me use AI to try to make these slides look better. I was very stressed because it started to put in fake numbers and I had to go back and forth. So there's a combination here, but what you see tonight are the correct numbers. This slide is a summary slide, but I think it gets to the chase of what everyone's trying to look for. The budget that I'm proposing this evening is $65,254,332. Most importantly, the proposed tax levy is 1.98%, and the budget to budget increases 3.04%. And in the presentation, you'll see how we got to those numbers. I gave this to you last year, and I just wanted to have the public have this available. It's the formula for presenting how we get to the property tax cap. It's very complicated, and I found this online, which is another version of it. But this is the numbers that affect Putnam Valley. So we start with the prior year tax levy. We multiply the tax base growth factor that's specific to Putnam Valley. And I've mentioned this before, but I think it deserves another mention tonight, that the growth factor reflects the quantity change in taxable property values in the base year. This factor is based on actual physical changes to property tax, like new construction of homes, stores, and offices, not just changes in the assessed value of the existing unchanged taxable properties. Next, we have the prior year capital exclusions, and there are a number of items that go into this, and it nets out to $2,195,647, which we subtract from the number above. And from that, we would get the allowable levy growth factor. This is what you hear on the news when they always talk about the 2%. And this year it is 2%, but it usually would be the choice of the lesser of CPI or 2%. And then we apply that, and then we have a tax levy limit before the exclusions of the current year. To that, we add the current year capital exclusions. Once again, there are a number of items that go down on this list, and that total comes out to $43,412,658. That comes out to a 1.98% tax cap. The gross levy change in dollars means that we get to add $844,363 to the budget. So this is usually my first starting point, because this is the money that we're going to get from the taxpayers to support the budget. I like to add this in because a lot of people are curious about the historical tax cap inflation factors. And as you see, back in 23-24, the CPI was 8%, but we were limited to 2%. This year, it's 2.64%, but we're still limited to the 2%.
I'm sorry, is that limited by the state, or
That's
who limits it?
So the limit is on that the line that says allowable levy growth factor.
Yeah.
That's the 2%. It would have been CPI or 2%. That's what you read on the news all the time when people say it's 2%.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
But then what's the 8%?
the 8%
That
was the
inflation.
CPI
8%
in that.
inflation.
That was the CPI in that year.
Got it.
Okay. But this year it's 2.64%. And this is another way of looking at that, except in a graph form. The orange dotted line across is the 2%, whereas the blue line is the CPI that's going all over the place on the graph. So this basically is just showing you how much the same numbers that we had in the beginning, that after the tax levy, this is the amount of money that's coming into the budget to support the programs. We like to look at what the tax cap is in our neighboring districts, and as you can see, we're pretty low because we're at 1.98% as compared to some of the other school districts. Some of the key drivers that the superintendent and the cabinet has been looking at when we prepare the budget are listed here. And of course, we have the contractual salary obligations. We're in negotiations this year for the teachers union. We have employee health insurance and state mandated benefits that do increase, which are like the ERS and the TRS. We have transportation and operational overhead costs. We have essential instructional programs that have needs and updates, and we continue the investment in the comprehensive student services.
What are we estimating the health insurance benefit increases to be? What percentage year over year?
Well, I didn't actually calculate how much it is in the budget this year. We just put it, you'll see the increase in the budget. Okay, I'll get that number for you.
Okay, thank you. I'm just curious.
This is the state aid when we compare it between the neighboring school districts, and it also has last year's numbers and this year's number and the state aid change. You look at Putnam Valley, we had a change of $773,981, which is not absorbent, but I'm always glad when they don't reduce it.
Better than it's been.
And this is another way of looking at the state aid in a bar form. This just gives you the tally of the district enrollments, which I usually get from Mike Lee. And this is a computation of the cost per student versus the enrollment by the district. And you have to recall last year when I talked about the cost per student, it depends on what goes into this. I retrieved the numbers from the transparency report, and that does exclude transportation, charter school tuition, other tuition, debt service, and a little bit of other miscellaneous in order to capture this figure. Here comes the revenue sources for 26-27. We already talked about the school taxes, the $43,412,000. We just talked about the state aid, which is about $17,808,000. We have a combination of miscellaneous other local revenue, which I will get into in a minute. Then we have some transfer in from the debt service and capital projects that have been completed. That money has to be returned to the operating budget of the A fund. And then we have some fund balance and reserves. This is how we will use the revenues, because we have to make sure that our revenues equal our expenses. This pie chart is only looking at the 18 million other local revenue service. And that, just wanted to show you again, there's the piece of this shown as a pie instead of in a chart. So the 18,882,790 other local revenues are shown in the next chart. This is a combination of three big things, and one of the biggest things is the garrison tuition that we get. This year it has been increased to $517,790. This is a three-part budget, which we're required by law to submit to the state, but I thought you might be interested in knowing that 76% of our money goes into programs. Here are the proposed budget expenses divided up between the categories of how the state likes us to report it to them. Again, instruction is 52%, transportation is 7%, the undistributed is 29%, general support is 10%, and interfund transfer is 2%.
For the public, can you describe what undistributed is in expenses, please, Dr. Chen?
Yes, just off the top of my head, because a board member did ask me, was curious about that recently. There's debt service in there. There's a lot of benefits that goes in.
The insurances and things like that.
Insurance, correct, yes. So 71% of our budget is due to salaries and benefits, which is not a surprise to anyone. And the remaining 29% is funded by the rest of the budget operations, special education programs, debt service, technology, and transportation. So I feel like could be overwhelming for people to look at all these numbers. The first column is what we had adopted from last year's budget. The second column is what I'm proposing in the current year's proposed budget. The third column is the change between the 2 years, and the fourth column is the percentage of that item to the whole budget of the current year. These will be on the website, so people don't have to memorize any of the numbers here. There's a line in the budget called Transfer to Capital, and that line item tells you what we're spending our money on this year to do capital projects in the community. One of the first things that we have is the installation of an outdoor fitness equipment, of which we did gain $60,000 grant to run this, to build this. And other items, this is just more pictures of that. And once more. Okay, this is a list of the rest of the capital projects, which would probably be best explained by David Spittle, who gave me the list, because this is the things that he plans to do in the district on the coming year.
New stairs. Good.
Again, this is a summary slide. The proposition we're asking you to vote on is for the budget passing of the $65,254,332. These are important dates that are left before the vote on May 19th. Does anyone have any questions?
So happy, again, the district historically has never broken the cap since the cap has been instituted, and this carries on that tradition. And that's tough to do with ever-increasing costs. I don't know what the current circumstances nationally are going to do. We know fuel costs are shooting up right now. Barrel of oil is now $100, as compared to just 2 weeks ago it was only about $62, $63 a barrel.
It's $4.99
and
a
boy,
gallon for oil today
yeah.
from my oil company.
Yeah, no, and if need be, we have reserves to cover those unexpected increases for next year.
Well, I'm going to go back to the slide where it might give someone a headache to see all these numbers. If you see the operation, it has increased from last year to this year to $430,109.
Yes.
That scared me when I had a meeting with Dave Spittle, but we understand why. There are a lot of things that are going up. And if not for that, maybe my budget to budget would not have been 3.04, because we really tried to keep everything
I'm pleased
down.
to see that, because that's anticipating what very well may happen,
Right.
unless, the conflict ceases soon, hopefully. Please God.
So we have regular meetings with our administrators when we start this process, and I did want to point out that special education is going down because Melissa looked carefully at her budget and realized that she probably will be okay with less than what she was granted last year. So I think everyone in the district is very cognizant of the money, and we do our best together.
And that makes the increase in the operations budget not as much of a hit, right? Because we're looking to
Right.
save money in certain departments, and then, and that will, I've noticed in the past few years, that year by year, that the needs vary, right? And sometimes it's one department that gives up a little bit to give to a different department, and sometimes, the favor is returned the next year when it's needed, right? And so I really enjoy that you and your team take a really close look at where we can save, so that we can be smart about where we have to spend. And that we're projecting those expenses ahead of time, so that we're not in a pickle that we can't handle, later on in the year. It's just really responsible, so thank you for that.
It's an excellent budget.
And we do use the ERS reserves to help fund the budget, so
Okay.
that's been something that I've been doing since this is my second year here. So.
No, this is very good, Dr. Chen.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Dr.
much.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Dr. Chan, quick question. Going back to the 71% salary benefits, 29% operations and such, is that consistent with other school districts, or?
I would say what is consistent is that salary and benefits is up in the 70s. That's basically no matter where I worked or wherever I've been. I mean, we're in the business of teaching kids, and our teachers are our commodity, so, you know, that's very true.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if you can answer this, but on one of your slides, the one comparing us to local districts, HenHUD went down. Their budget is
I think you're talking about their tax cap, that,
their tax cap, yeah.
right. So what happens is that complicated formula that I was telling you about, everyone has to follow that, and wherever the numbers fall is where you get to pick your tax cap. The only change you could do is if, like what we did last year, what we were allowed to change our tax cap to was like 4.5%, but we didn't. In their case, they went into the negatives, and it might have something to do with, for instance, when your debt service falls off, and then you no longer have that number to put in to the tax cap formula. So without knowing the details of that, but that's an
probably
important
what
thing that
happened.
has to be collaboration with the superintendent to foresee this. Like, we wouldn't come to this point and say, oh my God, it's negative this year. Like, that could not be a surprise that we want to see. So we have to know what's happening. We project for the next 5 years.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Chen.
Thank you.
Thank you.